In the post-war era, humans lost their homes and games became their second world. Nowadays, it is the era of big online games. Forgetting dust, a man with the power of awakening from his past life and deep hatred in the sea of blood, returned to the turbulent gaming world 10 years ago. From then on, he turned his hand over the clouds and covered his hand with rain, changing his fate against the heavens. Underscore 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 underscore. This book is a fantasy online game. Don't enter or spray if you don't like it. Underscore 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 keywords of the novel. No pop-ups in the era of big online games. Download the complete set of TXT in the era of big online games, and read the latest chapters in the era of big online games. New book introduction, readers must read. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The book has been opened. Just like in previous years, I will always say some heartfelt words before this, and this time is no exception. It has been more than half a month since the completion of the book, and compared to the previous book opening, it has been a long time since this time. From dominating everything to being invincible in the world and then to being invincible in the king, everything is seamlessly connected. As soon as the book is finished, a new book is immediately sewn together. However, this time, I did not do so. In fact, the manuscript has already been written, but it has not been published. There are many reasons, but among them, I think the biggest problem is actually myself. Not bad, the biggest anxiety factor is actually myself. From the second half of the year when I was invincible in the world to writing about invincible kings, everyone knows my state very well. It's just a muddled idea of writing books to make a living. I no longer have the feelings for coding and the dream of writing. I am just a scumbag who makes money from coding. So, when the invincible king ended hastily, I chose to settle down. I want to ask myself, why did I write about myself in the beginning? Is it for money or what? I still remember the passion of writing about dominating everything for a few hundred yuan a month. At that time, I could write 10 to 30,000 words a day, even forgetting time and sleep. I was determined to write a book that would be recognized by everyone. Was my original self for money? I only have a few hundred in a month, but why did I persist? Why did I become increasingly lazy despite my increasing manuscript fees? I kept asking myself, constantly reminding myself to work hard, but that was just a warning. I have never taken any action for my words. Here, I sincerely apologize to the readers who have supported me. I am sorry that you have repeatedly forgiven my stubbornness, believed in me time and time again, until the end of despair. Although there were many things that I, as a human, couldn't resist during this period, ultimately I was not firm enough. I forgot my initial dream and the enthusiasm for writing books, and even willingly fell, trampling on your trust and support time and time again. In the past month, I have been constantly reflecting on myself, thinking a lot, and doing a lot. On the one hand, I have sorted out the plot development and plot classification of the new book, and on the other hand, I also want to give myself some sense of oppression. Therefore, I have chosen to work. I want to return to the initial hard work, and I want to only have time to catch my breath. The precipitation during this period has also made it clear to oneself that the dream of writing a book has just begun. The new book titled The Age of Online Gaming is indeed a very vulgar name, but it carries all of Xiaoyu's dreams of online gaming. How to write about online games, how to achieve the same level of excitement in different online games, and whether online games should adhere to conventions or break through innovation. I have been thinking about this question for a year, and after reading my book, everyone knows that Xiaoyu's book basically does not have complicated tasks or boring monster killing. I use the plot, and I use pure passion to build a passionate online gaming world. But that's not enough, because one day I always get tired of reading. I'm thinking about how to make online games stand out among many novel genres. Maybe I can't do it, but I must go in this direction because it's my dream, just like the name of this book, an era belonging to online games. I know this road is not easy to follow, but it is precisely because of this that I am able to continue. I cannot do it, but this spirit will inevitably continue. One day, online games will be loved by the general public. On the first day of the book, there was a lot of talk. Regarding the new book, there were a large number of characters solicited, and Xiaoyu, who appeared on the VIP stamp list, the flower list, and the PK list, would arrange for unexpected and powerful characters. As for the important characters in the new book, they have all been packed and taken away by the invincible old readers, and will gradually appear in the game. The concept of the new book has slightly changed from the previous mode, but it will still maintain the style of the first 3 books. However, the background of this new book has also undergone a huge change. It is an era of war, and the protagonist's identity is a poor person, who belongs to the isolation zone. I will go from being an unknown person to dominating the world, similar to the invincible mode, but definitely surpassing the invincible brilliance. I won't say anything about the king, as everyone knows, which book is not a work of hard work. The concept of the era of big online games takes longer than the world. Although I promise not to disappoint everyone now, most readers will definitely maintain a skeptical attitude. Without further ado, let's wait and see. Let's see my performance this time. In order to be responsible to the readers, the new book constantly reminds itself that I will not be too aggressive. Currently, the update time is stable at 0 p.m. and 12 p.m. If there is a third shift, I will notify the time in the chapter, usually at 6 p.m. This time, it's not a plot of just making up numbers to make up for words. I will carefully consider every word and sentence for a long time. In order to strive for excellence, I won't work hard to update, but there are still conditions for the update to explode. During the list-making period, the flowers accumulated more than 800 plus 1 change per day, and the VIP votes were still 2000 plus 1 chapter. However, in order to be able to afford the brothers and sisters who voted, the chapters were divided into 1 or 2 days to be more complete when the manuscript was not enough. The voting was to urge more changes, so as to better and more wonderful love. When 200 yuan plus 1 chapter, I should not be careless. This is my attitude towards new books. Additionally, my work does not affect the coding process of new books, as having a computer provides ample coding time. I will use this book to bring you all back to my side. I will use this book to let everyone experience the impulse of love, friendship, and passion again, and let everyone know that my blood is not cold. The era of big online games, which once again makes everyone's blood boil, has already opened. During the ranking period, don't be stingy with the flowers in your hands. It is an opportunity to let more people know about Xiaoyu's new book and the era of online games. Let's take action and create a miracle once again. The 4th online game, the era of big online games, will be the painstaking work of my writing career. I believe it can reach its peak, but I still need everyone's support because I believe it is not enough, and I need everyone's support. Let's take action. Readers of my big online game. Some things about the new book. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Brothers, the new book is 30,000 words long and has reached a high-ranking stage. I hope everyone can continue to support my creation and cultivate my root. There are more conditions, 800 plus 1 more flowers per day, and 400 more flowers today. If you continue to awesome, you can continue to break out chapters, including 2,000 plus more VIP tickets, 1,000 plus more mobile phone network PK tickets, and 1,000 plus 1 more stamps. Readers' birthdays, all VIP legitimate readers, vote VIP, stamp, and subscribe are all updated for their birthdays. Due to the more rigorous nature of the new book, if the explosion conditions exceed 10 chapters, Xiaoyu can only be completed in a few days. After all, as everyone has seen in the new book, Xiaoyu is very cautious in writing, and every word is carefully considered before writing it. Therefore, in order to live up to the support of everyone's vote, Xiaoyu will take it more seriously. While pursuing speed, he will pay more attention to quality. Every Monday is a great opportunity to make it to the top. Let's do our best this week. The update time starts to stabilize at midnight and 12:00, with an additional chapter at 6 o'clock p.m., 2 shifts at 8 o'clock p.m., and 3 shifts at 10 o'clock p.m. I won't make too many promises about the new book, so as not to be scolded for being untrustworthy. In short, I will take this new book 200% seriously. In order to give back everyone's support for Xiaoyu's 3 books, I will not personally list the new book, at least for free, with over 1 million words or even more. I will make this promise 100% to repay everyone's support and to make up for everything I have lost. Let the era of online games repay the sins of King Invincible. Currently, the most important thing to climb the rankings is flowers. I need this, so please continue to support Xiaoyu. I will use all the passion of my life force to create new books and answer everyone's support for Xiaoyu. For new book roles and suggestions, please feel free to consult me on QQ4727988040. The new book will not be opened in groups at this time. We will notify everyone when we open the group. Chapter 1. 10 Years of Dreaming Back. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Buddha has 8 sufferings, which are nothing but death and separation, resentment and hatred, hardship and difficulty. Dust cannot dissolve into lust, and who else remembers the eastward flow of rivers? How many people have left a magnificent mark in this legendary history, but there are also those who have been buried on the path of success and fame, becoming a desolation among billions of bones. This is the life of forgetting dust. He was born in a turbulent era, occupying all the hardships in the world, but he is not the only one. As a poor person, he still has millions of people like him. Fortunately, this pain was not long, because his life was like a scene in a movie where he only lived at the age of 26. From the moment he stepped into the aristocratic zone, even he knew this path and could no longer turn back. Only by facing difficulties and rising up can he be considered a man. Even if he dies, he has no regrets or grievances. In the turbulent era of travel, the 10-year journey of forgotten dust finally arrived at the bustling city known as the Holy Land of Dreams, in Genesis. Just as they were about to sprint through the second half of the continent to search for the holy capital where the treasure of the Creator God was located, they encountered a devastating blow. His and his companions' adventures came to a tragic end here. But the greater pain in the real world is still waiting for him, because Forgetchen fell in love with a woman he shouldn't have loved. His beloved walked into the wedding hall, but the groom was not him. Angry, Red Beauty stained her blood all the way from the quarantine area to the aristocratic area, and finally drank and hated the yellow soil. He only hated himself for being powerless. It turns out that death is not so scary. What's scary is lonely. In the end, there is still only one person alone. Every time he thought of the brothers and companions who had sacrificed their lives for him, his heart pricked and pierced, numb with pain. What he regretted the most was that even in death, he could not fulfill their expectations of himself. At the moment when consciousness disappeared, it seemed that a sentence from his beloved woman still echoed in his mind: "If I were only for the common people, I would have children for you." This short sentence seemed like a gap between heaven and earth, and the girl's inner world was like a breakdown. For Forgetchen, this is undoubtedly the biggest blow he has suffered in his heart. He hates the injustice of the heavens, his helplessness, and his lack of prominent family background. If there is still an afterlife, I will marry you. In this life, he has no right or incompetence but only serves the common people. If he has all the skills and a prominent family background, he will make you my wife and use my life to protect you. But this is just if a poor person from a radiation zone used his life to interpret his love and also portrayed the most exciting journey of his life, although it was an end if it's with the afterlife. Is there really an afterlife, really a cause and effect? Slowly calming down the anger, the brain seems to be still operating with surprisingly clear consciousness. Is it your own soul? Forget Chen was a bit self-deprecating, his palms could move, and he even felt the moisture at the corners of his eyes. Hey, what's going on here? Suddenly, my body felt intense pain, and the buzzing ears echoed with laughter. Many people were looking at me. No, it's not like that. When the scene in his sight became wider, he realized that he was surrounded by several adult men, enduring the humiliation they brought to him with their fists and kicks. Damn it, no, no. The piercing cries and painful roars echoed in my ears, but it was a familiar voice. The blurred eyes reflected a rushing figure. Night, sorrow brother. In the moment he saw the blurry figure clearly, the still dizzy forgetful dust trembled like being struck by an electric light. The sudden awakening made him unable to believe his position. This was the red street in the quarantine zone 10 years ago, and he will never forget the scene in front of him in his lifetime, because it was on this day that he lost an important family here. What's going on? Didn't I die? What's going on with this pain and the real picture? Dreaming. Hee, God, stop joking. When will you torture me? Every time I think of myself lying in a pool of blood and my beloved woman crying loudly, his heart hurts one after another. Bang. In the midst of sadness, Shichen suddenly felt his cheek hit by a hard object, and a clear punch mark appeared on his face. It hurts so much. If it's a dream, it might be too real. Forget dust, run away, run away. Just as he felt everything was unbelievable, there was another voice behind him that accelerated his heart. It was a beautiful soft voice, with a hint of despair in crying and pain in despair. The moment he turned around, the face that left Forget Dust young and heartbroken caught his eye. Muyao's sister. The uncontrollable sadness caused tears to scratch his cheeks, and uncontrollable tears moistened his soul like a gushing spring. But the scene before me doesn't seem as beautiful as imagined. It seems that Muyao's hands are being bound by two strong men, and no matter how hard she struggles, it is completely useless. Her ears are filled with Muyao's loud and painful cries, and the scene of Yi Shang being beaten by an adult appears in front of her eyes. No, not only that, but looking around, she sees a scene that stimulates her heart. 3 people fell into a pool of blood, and a 12-year-old girl held back her tears and kept calling out the names of the 3 lying on the ground. The little girl was very strong, and she didn't cry. Even if the tears flowed down, he still didn't make a sound. Lin Lin. It's Lin Lin. Lying on the ground are Komatsu, Luo Yong, and Ada. The shocking scene stunned the battered self, allowing his fist to hit his body and the fierce foot kick to hit his entire body. The pain actually made him more conscious and silent in place, motionless. Thousands of thoughts involuntarily returned to his youth. That year, they, born in Orphan Street, couldn't resist the temptation of delicious food and stole a whole piece of meat from the spider crime group on Red Street. However, because of this, it led to the disaster of killing lives. In this chaotic era, not only meat, but also a full meal is a luxury. The name, Spider Criminals, was like a sedative that woke up the beaten boy. His originally stiff body suddenly clenched its thin and weak fist, forcing him to wake up. Not far away, he saw a cheek that he wished he could shatter into pieces. That face was shocking and unforgettable, with spider-like scars covering the forehead and corners of the eyes. It was showing a nauseating smile, treating the lives and deaths of others as a spectacle to watch. In his eyes, he saw coldness and ruthlessness. Orphans like Forget Dust were simply worthless garbage. Not bad, garbage. In this world where there is almost no rule of law, as long as they don't leave this slum, no one will meddle. Their lives are not valued like garbage. Even if it were such a group of children who were beaten to death, no one would pity or sympathize. The law of the jungle, no one would sympathize with you because of your weakness. Forget Chen finally remembered that it was the year when he was 15 years old. Yes, this fragile body at this moment was exactly when he was 15 years old. Ha ha ha, ha ha ha. Ignoring the glare of others, he burst out laughing. Has this kid been beaten to foolishness? Alas, the poor child has been beaten to foolishness. Who would laugh loudly after being beaten? It must be foolish. Others shook their heads, but without any regret or sympathy, they offered to help. Red Street is the territory of spider crime, and no one here will rescue them. The destined death cannot be changed. Not bad, die. In the year when I was 15 years old, I did experience a life and death, and only he and Lin Lin survived. However, Yi Shang and Mu Yao sacrificed their lives to keep them alive. After laughing loudly, Forget Chen calmed down. The excitement of rebirth made his whole body tremble, just because he was excited to see them again. It was really, really, really great. Tears seemed to flow into his heart. TSK TSK TSK, do you realize you're scared now? Even our spider crime squad's food dares to steal. We should have thought of such consequences before we did it, right? One of the spider squad's minions stood in front of Forget Chen with disdain and intimidation, his smiling face showing indescribable disgust. Seeing that Forget Dust ignored him, the subordinate of the spider ball was inexplicably angry and said, "You, who are not even as good as garbage, dare to ignore my words. Since that's the case, you should completely disappear from me." He fiercely took out his dagger and suddenly stabbed at the heart of Forget Dust. The young man lowered his head, his trembling body still trembling. Ha ha ha, have you been scared to death? Yes, I'm afraid you haven't seen blood yet. Don't worry, it won't be painful. When the white blade enters and exits your body, the chill is the beginning of your death. With a fierce smile, the attack was launched, and the onlookers also shouted excitedly. In this era, blood battles are enough to make people excited. No. Don't hurt Forget Chen. Yi Shang desperately wanted to go in the direction of Forget Chen, but was mercilessly knocked down to the ground, but he still wanted to climb over. Forget the dust. Mu Yao's heart-wrenching cries came from behind. The dagger pierced through his heart, but it was not from Forgotten Dust, but from Mu Yao. In a critical moment, Mu Yao inexplicably broke free from their constraints and saved him from a fatal blow. This should have been a bloody script from a past life, but I don't want to lose my family and friends anymore. A roar pulled my thoughts back to reality. The servant's hard blow and the words from the boy's mouth echoed in people's ears. The boy, who was still trembling, suddenly lifted his head, and the moment he looked at each other made the servant of the spider group tremble in his heart. From now on, I will spare no effort to protect everything I cherish. The thin and weak fist suddenly condensed and the veins were exposed. The servant burst out laughing as if he had heard the greatest irony in the world. However, as soon as Forget Chen punched, his smile stopped and his cheeks twisted with a degree of curvature that did not belong to human skin tissue. So, don't take action against my loved ones. Angered up in the sky, it was like a fierce beast roaring. The power of the right fist exploded and knocked the minion flying more than 10 meters away. The once boiling Red Street suddenly became silent at this moment. A dream every 10 years, life and death in confusion, lost too much in the past life, in order to no longer leave regrets in this life, forget the awakening of dust. Settled for a long time, the first chapter of the new book will be released. If there are more, we will talk about it tomorrow morning. At this moment, please come on, boys. Released the second chapter at December 2000, noon. Chapter 2. Potential Explosion. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. The gusts of wind swept up the red sand, and the diffuse isolation zone radiated dust, burying the entire town. But the young man's cry seemed to be haunted by a spell that had not yet dissipated. The sudden silence in the red neighborhood attracted the attention of many people, and most of the expressions of others were left with only astonished and incredulous gazes. The slender body and burly man were as extreme as elephants and ants, yet their small fists erupted with astonishing power at that moment. Just now, did you see it? Said a homeless man in shock. How could it be? How could such a body defeat the people of the Spider Crime Squad? The people around still couldn't believe what they saw in front of them, even if the fact was right in front of them. Sitting on a wooden chair, the criminal gang leader Red Spider, who was holding the woman on his body and shamelessly thrusting into his clothes to knead, suddenly changed his expression and his gaze towards the young man became more serious. People who had come to their senses were all in disbelief, but Forget Chen was determined to save his loved ones. He shook his troublesome arm with some unwillingness and looked at the struggling right fist, saying to himself, sure enough, if this body burns with life, it's a bit difficult. His usual care hasn't kept up with it. However, as I imagined, the awakened potential of life in my past life really exists. As long as I have this power, I will no longer lose the cherished ones in this life. Bastard, what did you do to our people? There were a total of 3 people who were beating up Forget Chen. Just now, they were just one of them. The other 2 suddenly remembered watching such a thing happen, feeling their dignity and face being severely trampled on. They immediately shouted at Forget Chen and became furious, without saying a word, launched a fist and foot attack. It's too slow. The indifferent words came out of Forget Chen's mouth. When both of them were attacking with their front left fists and feet at the same time, he took advantage of the situation and bent down, his left arm propped up and suddenly rotated. A whirlwind leg tripped the 2 of them, and their faces turned red as if they had been slapped in front of each other. Just as he stood up, he felt a strong fist on his cheeks. Bang, bang. Let you hit me, let you hit me. It was another attack from the forgotten fist, but after falling to the ground, he never got up again. The bridge of his nose collapsed and he fell into a coma. Looking at this disharmonious scene before us, both the people of the Red Spider and the onlookers were stunned. Originally almost beaten, the skinnier little one among them, at this moment, where did the power come from to defeat the people of the Spider Ball? They have no way to pursue it. However, Forgetful Dust had already begun his revenge, walking towards the position of Night Sorrow step by step with the murderous intent of the explosive hatred in his eyes. Those guys who beat up the dead at night have realized that they are the target of Forget Dust. One of them suddenly raised his fist and rushed to Forget Dust, shouting. Little devil, don't be so crazy, just you want to defeat us, it's too early. He calmly dodged the opponent's attack, and before the person could finish speaking, Forgotten Dust's fist hit his abdomen. The speed seemed not to be the strength that this young man possessed, and it was another person's fall, which had already made the watching Red Spider restless. Damn it! When they saw their companions being killed, the other 2 roared and launched an attack from left to right, but at this moment, they had more broken blades in their hands. Do we also need to take out these guys to deal with children? Ko Wangchen sneered, stinky kid, stop talking nonsense. I'll kill you. Launch an attack, and the guy on the far right rushes towards Forget Dust with lightning speed, while the other side intercepts the back from the left. Although this body is a bit difficult, I can't care so much now. Life burns, charge. Just like the previous feeling, that eerie thing appeared again and wrapped around Forget Chen's body. Yes, only one person present noticed the mutation that happened when Forget Chen burst out with this fist. In an instant, a sticky white mist appeared all over his body, and when he punched, the white mist turned into flames and condensed in his right fist. This was the incredible scene seen by the fallen Night Sorrow eyes. 2 fists, like an impact, hit the bodies of the 2 attackers, completely rendering them unconscious with just one blow. However, after that, Forget Chen's body stumbled and fell a bit. Unlike his willpower at this age, he still stood firm. A few people surrounded him, but this time Forget Chen turned around and made them feel intimidated in his eyes. The murderous aura made these criminals fear. I've really lost my face, you bunch of trash. The person surrounding Forget Chen was suddenly knocked out, and a burly body blocked Forget Chen's sight. When he appeared, waves of exclamation came from the whole room. Red Spider. People looked at the sound and saw Red Spider walking out of the crowd. Everyone had an idea. Should he personally take action? Has it been the boss's turn to make an appearance? In Forget Chen's eyes, this guy is already his prey in the game, although it is still a reality now. TSK 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 TSK, the spider sneered and then burst out laughing. Do you want me to personally take action? It's just a pipe dream. He gave a glance and the two of them, who had bound Mu Yao like dragging corpses, brought her to the sight of Red Spider. The guy showed a lewd smile and reached out his hand to lift Mu Yao's face, saying, "What a delicate little girl, at such a young age, there is such a standard." As she spoke, her hands were placed on Mu Yao's chest and kneaded recklessly. Seeing this scene, Forget Dust and Night Sorrow seemed like blood exploding, and Forget Dust's body erupted with a white flame. Get away from Mu Yao's side. Blood oozed from her lips, and her tightly clenched fists revealed a bright red color. Her nails even seeped into her flesh. You guys should be the ones who want to leave, right? No one dares to touch me on the entire Red Street, nor can anyone snatch back the woman I value. Little ones, you must be a bit complacent. Red Spider not only didn't listen, but also wanted to put his hand deep into the young woman's clothes. I told you to leave Meow sister, you bastard. It was as fast as lightning and as fast as the wind. At this moment it was not enough to describe the anger in Forget Chen's heart. The thick white mist surrounding his body erupted in the form of flames. In the moment when his footsteps exerted force, the dust on the ground burst out and shook like a vortex. But when people came to their senses, they found that the boy had already appeared on the side of Red Spider. In the moment they looked at each other, Red Spider's eyes reflected the terrifying white flame fist of Forget Dust. Life potential, explosive. Boom! Only heard the sound of a bomb exploding, and the punch hit the spider's head. This angry blow was the spider's desecration of Mu Yao. The usually towering spider was actually hit by the punch and flew more than 10 meters away, leaving a deep red mark on the red wall. Mu Yao. Yishang didn't know where the strength came from and rushed to Mu Yao's face. He picked up a broken blade on the ground and cut off one of the people's palms, while Forget Chen took the opportunity to kick one person and successfully rescued Mu Yao. Brother Shang, leave here with sister Mu Yao and Lin Lin, said Forget Chen with a serious expression that he couldn't refuse. I won't leave, there's nothing more shameful than leaving my loved ones and running away. Forget Chen knows too much about Yishang. If he were the kind of person who is afraid of his head and tail, he wouldn't have come here to fight against spiders. Let's fight to the end. At this moment, I don't know what fate will be like, but I will never die, nor can I let my loved ones die in front of me again, becoming stronger and even stronger. Little devil, don't think you'll leave here alive. The angry voice of the spider came from the Red Street. He slowly got up from the ground, his burly body swaying back to where they were, and his exposed expression appeared when he looked up. Life potential. Damn it, my hand. It was only at this moment that Forget Chen realized that his right arm was completely drooping, and the joints of his little hand were all shattered and almost painless. Just using explosion once is enough, we can't procrastinate anymore. We must fight quickly and make a decision. Forget Chen knows that he is concerned about his physical condition. If he continues to fight, he may exacerbate his own death due to burning too much life, and the power of life burning is not so easy to control. Stinky little devil, you have completely angered me. That punch just now did make the spider feel the threat of life, but his tempered body would not fall due to that punch. When he stood up again, he hit the young man's back with the power of a wolf tiger. Launching an attack with the momentum of a fierce tiger, Forgotten Dust was about to dodge, but due to physical reasons, he slowed down half a step. His fist hit his back, and people couldn't bear to look straight at him. It was rumored that a punch from Red Spider was equivalent to 30 pounds of iron, and his angry punch was equivalent to 30 pounds of iron falling from a 10th floor. Gathering. At the critical moment of falling to the ground, Forget Dust condensed all the sticky white mist onto his back, which was exactly where the spider attacked. He spat out white foam from his mouth, but immediately turned around and made preparations for battle. The spider and his henchmen were somewhat surprised. The punch just now did not break the spine of this thin and weak young man, and his fighting consciousness was 100 times clearer than that of ordinary people. The red spider felt fear from the child for the first time. The defensive force formed by condensing the potential of life combustion in one place, although still weak, was spared a fatal blow. However, after using it, Forgotten Dust felt as if his already weak body had been emptied. This body was indeed unable to support the massive energy that consumed life. It seems like he's going to use it again. The young man had a definition in his heart. The white viscous substance seemed to be unnoticed at this moment, transforming from sticky to flames and condensing onto his fist again. However, unlike before, the white fire on his fist seemed to have signs of explosion like thunder. This is the explosive potential of life that brings together gathering and charging. Bastard, I'm going to chop up your body and sell it to a butcher's shop to make human dumplings. The spider was completely angry, and all the wild muscles burst out, as if they could hear the sound of muscle expansion, while Forget Dust was also condensing the only remaining potential of this body. Bet everything on your left arm. Ah 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 ah. The intense potential erupted, blasting his tattered long sleeves directly. The terrifying white flames condensed in his left fist, sprinting. Two people rushed towards each other at the same time, using the wildest way to decide the man's battle. I only heard a loud roar in my ear, and people never saw the spider stand up again on that day. People will never forget the birth and beginning of another legendary figure. Spider, the leader of the Red Spider crime squad on the Red Street, had 4 ribs and 2 front teeth broken by a 15-year-old boy, bringing him a lifetime of humiliation. The potential of life, the never-ending burning, is the indomitable will pass down from the Forgotten Dust. Life potential, the ultimate human being in the world. Chapter 3. Life Potential. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Orphan Street, a desolate street with few people coming and going, often sees a group of underage children because in this undignified isolation zone, people prefer to live in a world of games. Forget, wake up. The soft and beautiful female voice asked 3 different questions in a row, which woke up the cold sweat-drenched Chin Chin. He looked at the wooden house in front of him, which was different from his own, although it was the same simple but much larger. Forget, you've finally woken up. Yi Shang, who was sleeping soundly next to him, looked at Forget Chin with surprise. The excitement in their hearts even made the other little ones shed tears. Forgetful Dust seemed to have forgotten what happened after the battle, and then began to carefully recall what had happened, saying, "What happened after I fainted? It was Grandpa Dugu who brought us back." Yi Shang lay on the other side of the bed, completely wrapped in forgetfulness, and the two of them became ancient mummies. You have been unconscious for 3 days and 3 nights, but you scared them. A small, white-haired old man walked in carrying a large burlap bag outside the door, and all the burlap bags throughout were fresh delicacies. "I'm hungry, Miss Muyao, go make a delicious meal." With her eyes slightly narrowed, her thin and weak body was almost no different from an ordinary old man, but everyone knew that the reason why the children in Orphan Street made a mistake was that even the leader of the isolation zone dared not step here when they returned to Orphan Street. It was precisely because of this old man's presence that the leader of the isolation zone was not comparable to the leader of a certain robbery road. It turned out that Grandpa Dugu had saved us. Forget Chin wanted to get out of bed and express his gratitude, but was stopped by the old man. He realized that his right arm was wrapped in layers of bandages. At this moment, the intense pain from his right arm made him sweat hard, but he didn't say a word. He just looked at his right arm and felt his weakness. The old man stared mysteriously at Forget Dust, with a faint smile on his lips under his white beard. The power that could only be unleashed in the world of creation seems to be destined in the dark. If he hadn't logged out of the game, the consequences would have been unimaginable, he thought to himself. Mu Yao is not only beautiful, but also known for her kindness and excellent cooking skills. The rich feast is like celebrating the recovery of forgetting dust. That day, a few little guys even drank the old man's wine and got drunk, and laughter spread through the simple wooden house. Grandpa Gu, are you leaving again? Everyone was already asleep late at night, but only one person had no drowsiness. He waited at the door like an old man. As if he had already known that Forget Dust would be here, the old man simply said, "The offline time is not so abundant, but this time I came back. I didn't expect you to give me an unexpected surprise." That night, the lonely old man mysteriously disappeared as usual. No one knew where he came from and where he went, but he constantly protected this street full of orphans. At dawn, the red sand and dust still permeated the sky above the quarantine zone. With no day to see, Forgotten Dust recovered quickly, and on the fifth day, his right arm was as intact as before. This surprised Mu Yao, Lin Lin, and Yi Shang, among others. For the young Komatsu Ada, Luo Yong, and the three of them, they didn't think as much as Yi Shang did. At that time, Yi Shang did indeed see the flame flower blooming on Forget Dust's body, and he always wanted to find a chance to ask. One night, the moonlight was deep, but it was covered in blood. The scenery outside was so beautiful that people in the quarantine zone had never seen it before. The isolation zone in Zone 711 is rumored to be deadly as soon as one steps into it. The Valley of Life is right at the feet of Forget Dust, and with just one thought, he can cross it and leave the isolation zone, but he knows it's not the time yet. Forget, why did you come here? Looking at the Life Gully, Yi Shang was very surprised. He followed along with Forget Chen all the way, but unexpectedly he stopped here. It seemed that he was not surprised by the arrival of the night morning. Forgetful Dust looked out eagerly and said, "Oh, do you want to go and see the outside world?" As he said these words, his eyes flickered with anticipation, a gleam of longing. In his past life, he went once to forget the dust, but it came at the cost of death. At that time, he didn't have extra time to appreciate the scenery outside the quarantine zone. However, he knew that the world outside the quarantine zone was beautiful, and those powerful people deceived everyone. The so-called radiation of life was not enough to cause death. They were just trying to raise most people and allow them to enjoy more and better resources for themselves. The outside world. Yi Shang was stunned. He had thought about it a lot, but never thought about leaving here, because the textbook clearly told the world that there is a more terrifying radiation of death outside the quarantine zone, and those who step in will die. Impossible. We can't get out, Yi Shang replied with certainty. How do you know if you don't try? She said as she jumped off the forbidden zone in the quarantine area. Yi Shang was shocked and turned pale. He rushed out and climbed on the edge of the cliff, looking down at him and shouting, "Chen, what are you doing? Are you looking for death? Ha ha ha, we will never know the truth if we don't experience it personally. The outside world is very wonderful and completely different from what is said in the book." The laughter passed on to Yi Shang was the laughter of Forget Dust, but then there was no sound. What's going on, isn't it? Yi Shang was shocked. You damn kid, didn't you say I didn't want you to go? Hey, brother Yi Shang, aren't you coming down yet? But soon a surprised voice came, and Forget Dust was still there. Yi Shang was completely blinded. Isn't it true that stepping into the radiation zone will definitely lead to death? He approached the forbidden area step by step, half believing and half doubting, appearing very nervous. When he arrived below, he saw the figure of Forget Chen. Seeing how timid he was, Forget Chen pulled him in, and his heart couldn't stop beating faster and faster. A minute later, Yi Shang still couldn't believe it and said, We didn't die. Of course not dead, but we still can't leave now. Forget Chen is very clear that there are many mutated monsters and machine guards managing the isolation area on the periphery. If you go further, you will be attacked by monsters. Even if you break out of the monster area, you will be mercilessly shot by the machine guards. regardless of the original strength, so you cannot leave the isolation area before you have enough strength. But one day, it will be possible, thought Forget Chen's heart so firmly. At this moment, in the heart of Yishang, Forget Chen became even more mysterious. The eyes that looked at him were full of unknown colors, but he did not forget his purpose of coming here. Yishang regarded Forget Chen as his younger brother and would not hide his thoughts. So he spoke of the scene he had seen before fainting that day. Ah, is that white flame you see like this? Forgotten Chen smiled and gathered the white light around him, the white sticky substance only pressing close to every inch of his body. Well, it's very similar. What about this? Exploding all the power, a white flame burned in the body of Forget Dust. Yishang nodded firmly and said, that's it. This is the potential of life, how about it? Do you want to learn? At this moment, the smile of Forget Chen made Yishang unable to see through. The usual younger brother suddenly changed. What changes happened to Forget Chen's body after a few days of unconsciousness? Yishang wanted to ask further, but he suppressed his inner impulse because there were some things that didn't need to be asked too much. When it was time, he would naturally know. What he wanted to know more was how to learn this power. Is it really possible? I can also have that power. Only with that power can he truly protect his family. Ah, if it were Brother Yishang, it would definitely be possible. Life potential, the power that erupts at the cost of burning life. I believe Brother Yishang has long been prepared to use his life to protect and cherish people's consciousness. As long as there is such consciousness, people can definitely learn. In the following days, Yishang and Forget Chen were always mysterious among their companions. While Forget Chen shared all his experiences and insights with Yishang, he also began to strengthen his body. The potential of life is the power touched by the few moments in his life, otherwise he would not have been able to break through the isolation zone and go to the aristocratic district to cause a big wedding. Although he failed, even Forget Chen did not expect that he would have a chance to start over, so he cherished it even more. He was a genius who died young, but now he is very grateful for the opportunity given to him by heaven. In this life, he will reclaim everything he has lost. Explosion. The isolation zone of Huangyan Grottos is almost uninhabited, with no prey, ingredients, or necessary resources, so there will be no human presence at all. But since a few months ago, 2 teenagers have disrupted the tranquility here. With a loud explosion, a large boulder appeared with spider-like cracks spreading out. Taking a deep breath, the tender cheeks seemed even more resolute. The powerful burst formed from punching to bursting in one go was precisely from the burst of life potential, so strong. Knight Shang, who was practicing beside him, had become stunned. In the past 3 months, he had witnessed the growth of Forget Chen and the strength of his potential, laying a firm belief in learning the power of his potential. If I work hard, I can also protect them like I forgot. Closing my eyes, I fell into contemplation and began to gather energy. In less than 10 seconds, a white sticky substance appeared all over my body, as if I had found it. He suddenly opened his eyes and punched the stone pillar, shouting loudly, "Charge!" Bang! A burst of atmospheric waves, the stone pillar suddenly shook, and the gravel crashed. When he saw his success was obvious, Yishang became excited all over. Have you finally mastered the charge? Forget Chen witnessed the efforts of Yishang over the past few months. He didn't know much about the potential of life, but the 4 most basic parts were very clear and organized. This kind of human power, known as the burning of life, is derived from the flow of life, and everyone has it, but not everyone can control it. Forgotten Dust currently only knows the 4 foundations of this power. Gathering flows the potential of life throughout the body and stabilizes it. The strength condensed during combat will become the durability of defense and attack, doubling the power. Hidden, hides one's own breath, making the sense of existence weak. During this period, when launching potential attacks, one becomes defenseless. Explosion, instantly increase the stable potential and burn the whole body in a flame-like form, using it in various skills of oneself. One of the greatest effects of unleashing potential is that after mastering the first 3 powers, the unleashed power can have different effects depending on the individual's physical condition. Forgotten Chen's current body can only barely support it to the point of explosion, while Yin and Fong have not yet mastered it. As for his charge, it is a change of explosion, and the differentiated life energy charge can last longer than the explosion, but his strength is not as terrifying as the explosion. As Forgotten Chen had imagined, only himself and Yi Shang among them could grasp the potential of life. After 3 months of repeated practice, there was once again a loud explosion from the Huangyan grottos, and a huge grotto was shattered into pieces. Forget Chen and Yi Shang smiled at each other. They had perfectly mastered the 4 basics of Ju and Bao, but when the sunset fell and night fell, Forget Chen knew that it was time to separate because of this year. Yi Shang and Mu Yao were 16 years old. Chapter 4. Game Creation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This is an era of turmoil, where resources are as precious as diamonds in any country or region. In this era of the jungle, there is no such thing as dignity in human rights, only the poor and the powerful remain. They occupied the only natural cities, divided all the poor into isolated areas, and even, under the pretext of maintaining world order and peace, let people enter the game completely losing their only freedom. This is a process that humans on Earth cannot avoid today. At the age of 16, they will inevitably enter a game world called creation, which has many rumors, abundant resources, spiritual satisfaction, and even a game world that humans cannot leave. People who have never entered it are full of fear and longing for it, because creation itself carries too many mysteries and legends, but as long as there are still people, dreams will never end. The dilapidated wooden cabin exudes an oppressive and heavy atmosphere. The youthful scenes of the past seem to be vividly remembered. Today, Mu Yao is already a graceful young girl, with her well-developed twin peaks and a simple charm that is hard to conceal with just a few clothes. Her simple appearance does not require any decoration, and her delicate facial features, fair and red cheeks, perfectly complement the beauty of the young girl. This is the biology game Cabin of Genesis. What is the green liquid inside? Luo Yong, Ada Xiaosong, and Lin Lin all looked curiously at the 2 huge game biology cabins that appeared inside the small cabin. It was their first time seeing them. That's the liquid energy that maintains human skills, which can maintain the body's vitamins, hormones, and even the daily operation of the brain. It's amazing, isn't it? Mu Yao had already studied it in detail before bringing it, but there was always a faint sadness in the girl's eyes. This is the last night. For Night Sadness, this is his last night in the real world. The creators don't know much about it, but they have played up various rumors that they have heard. At least in the places where they live, there are many living examples. Many people who enter the game have never appeared again, and people like Red Spider, who appear to be powerful, still dare not enter that terrifying game until now. But no one can avoid it. In the end, people in the slums who have no choice will enter the game. But for different people, only entering creation is the true beginning, and forgetting dust is one of them. The atmosphere was very oppressive. Perhaps due to the potential of life, Night Sadness felt that every smile on her face was forced out. In this era, separation and death are nothing but 2 extremes, indifference and passion. The pain of separation lasted until the alarm device started warning them to enter the game, and the expressions on Mu Yao and Yi Shang's faces only became moved. If it's uncomfortable, it might be better to speak up. The heavy atmosphere left several young lives inside the wooden house speechless. When Forget Chen said these words, Lin Lin couldn't help but shed tears. Forget Chen brother said to be strong. Lin Lin didn't want to cry, but it's really heartbreaking. Sister Mu Yao and brother Yi Shang are about to leave us. She couldn't help but cry uncontrollably, tears already eroding her body and mind. It's so heavy. Even though I don't want to cry, even though I want to be a strong man, I just feel uncomfortable. Luo Yong, Ada, and Xiaosong couldn't help but cry when they heard Lin's words. At this moment, no matter how hard they tried to endure the heartache, they were just a group of children. Forgetting Dust and Night Morning, the two of them are even stronger, but their hearts are no longer stable. Even the two generations of Forgetting Dust are unwilling to face this scene, which is very uncomfortable and heavy. Fool, sister won't leave you because you are all my favorite younger brothers and sisters. She gently hugged them in her arms, and Forget Chen's face turned red. Her soft chest was right in front of her own breath, and the tempting fragrance lingered at the tip of her nose. After all, he was not a child like Komatsu, so it was inevitable that he felt a bit awkward. Didi. Just as Forget Chen was feeling a bit awkward and at a loss, his cheeks felt a hint of coldness. Looking up, he happened to see the scene of Mu Yao's crystal-clear tears dripping continuously. At that moment, his mood seemed even heavier, as if it touched the saddest emotions. That night, Forget Chen cried bitterly. Wave your hand, this is the final farewell, entering the game is not an eternal separation. It's agreed, we'll see each other again, whether it's in the game or in reality. Lin reached out her little hand, and everyone was touching each other, their palms and backs rendering a warm scene. Yi Shanggu, Mu Yao Jie, we have handed her over to you. If there is anything wrong with her, we will not forgive you. We have agreed. My favorite Mu Yao Jie, who saved Yi Shang and Mu Yao's forgetfulness, doesn't know what will happen in their gaming world, but he believes that Yi Shang will definitely protect Mu Yao. Yi Shang made the most solemn promise of her life and firmly said, even if she dies, I won't let her suffer any injustice. As the cabin completely covered them up, the children burst into tears again, and parting was always so painful. Whoosh! In the moment when the cabin completely covered up its body, the entire biological cabin miraculously disappeared. Forget Dust knew that they had left here, which was a unique function of the game cabin to protect its owner. However, if you want to see them again, it depends on whether Night Sorrow can successfully find the special items in the game. Although it was very sad, it was not a death or departure. The remaining companions still had to continue their lives. Since the departure of Yi Shang and Mu Yao, Forget Dust has become even more desperate. The flow of life and the burning of life are actually suicidal forces. If one cannot perfectly control the potential of life, they will only waste their life and exacerbate their own death. To solidify his mastery of power, he must fully control the hidden and explosive aspects before entering the game. As he flows his strength throughout his body and remains motionless, the 4 foundations of life power must be completed before that, and he only has 6 months left. Life potential, hidden, is an ability to completely conceal one's own breath, and if the ability is sublimated, it can achieve unexpected effects. In his past life, Forgotten Dust once fought against this type of strong person, and he is well aware of the great potential of life's power, which is also the source of his confidence. Because I have lost too much in the past, I have become even more demanding of myself. Explosion. In 3 months, he had been able to destroy 2 stone pillars with his accumulated right arm, equivalent to a fist with a force of 30 kilograms. However, after using the Big Bang 3 times in a row, his right arm almost dislocated. Realizing that his body was too weak, he began to exercise his body day and night repeatedly. At first, he lifted a 50-pound boulder, but later on, when he was 15.5 years old, he had already controlled the 150-pound boulder. In his final month, when he was about to turn 16, Forgotten Dust's body had undergone countless trials and tribulations, and its bronze-colored body was filled with explosive power. It's time to go back. The place where reality can exercise himself is almost useless, and he must enter the creation world to become a true powerhouse. At this moment, the leader of the Spider Crime Squad finally found an opportunity to counterattack. He caught Lin, but it also made the Spider regret it for a lifetime. On the day of Red Street, Forget Dust only punched the Spider half to death, and the young man swaggered and brought Lin back from the Spider Criminal Squad, causing another sensation on both streets. But for Shichen and Lin, this is not a happy thing because after a year of leaving Mu Yao and Yi Shang, Shurchen finally wants to leave them. It was another hot season of sadness, and the cold winter of that year, Mu Yao and Yi Shang left. The forgotten dust of this year also had to leave them. In the last month, he personally guided Luo to master the power of life potential. Luo, I'm leaving now. Lin, Ada, and Komatsu are going to be handed over to you. Within a year, you must control its power to protect your younger siblings. Do you understand? Luo peeked at the entire process of practicing life potential for Shurchen, thinking that Shurchen didn't know, but Luo didn't know that it was actually Shurchen's intention to show it to him. The little one's mood to protect his family is the same as himself, and he believes that he will eventually do it too. Luo nodded firmly. This time he didn't cry because Forget Chen had entrusted himself with the task of protecting his younger siblings. Staring at the game's biological cabin, Forgotten Dust's heart was filled with mixed emotions. The inexplicable emotions made his breathing rapid, and the creation and end were also the beginning of a new life. At the moment when his body was completely lying in the game cabin, the connecting lines inside the cabin connected to his body, causing a slight headache. However, this made Forget Chen feel that everything was real. When the system of the game helmet connected to the nerves of the brain, the game cabin door suddenly closed, slowly closing his eyes. Forget Chen's mouth fell asleep with a smile, like a dazzling sensation that traveled through time and space, spinning in a world full of brilliance. He still remembers the incident of fainting when he first entered the game in his previous life. According to my past life memories, if nothing unexpected happens, the place where I was born would be the Bone Burial Land on the edge of the continent, which is one of the top 10 forbidden areas for beginners in Genesis. When thousands of white lights flickered at the same time, Forgotten Dust, like other teleportation players, officially stepped into the game Genesis. Ding dong, welcome to game creation. Ding dong, you have entered the edge continent of Genesis Buried Bone City. Ding dong, players entering the Genesis game will be randomly assigned character cards and birth families. ID confirmation, Forget Dust, impoverished area in the southwestern radiation zone of the Yan Huang Kingdom in China. Identity confirmation, character card generation, your birth family is Butcher's Home. Wish you a happy game. Slowly opening his eyes, the familiar sound of the Genesis system could already be heard in his ear. At this moment, the world that Forgotten Dust was in was pitch black, but outside the pitch black door, there was already noise and shouting. At a glance, he couldn't help but show a knowing smile until his location. It's back again, Genesis. Thousands of words were reduced to this concise half-sentence. Only then did Forget Chen realize how eager and excited he was at this moment, as he could finally meet his friends again and see the person he loved the most in her past life. A beautiful girl cried and said to Forget Dust, "If I were only for the poor, I would marry you as my wife and have children for you. If I have a prominent family background, if I have extraordinary abilities, I will break the shackles of this aristocrat and marry you." Before dying, Forget Chen roared up to the sky. The promise of his past life was not kept by Forget Dust, but he miraculously possessed this life. From the moment he was reborn, regardless of good or bad, this world has begun to change. Chapter 5. Butcher's Home. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The land of buried bones, located on the edge of the Genesis continent, is the birthplace of many players, but for more people, it is a land of despair. Players who entered this place with dreams in their past lives, just like Forgotten Dust, suffered endless oppression and despair. To continue their adventure in the game, they had to cross the land of buried bones. The giant tree forest, however, the surroundings of the giant tree forest are inhabited by fierce beasts that they cannot resist. Yes, this is the cruelty of the buried bones land, and unlike in the past, the starting point of the game was always low-level monsters. Beasts with a cultivation level of over 100 from the beginning are a gap that they cannot cross. However, many of these people initially did not know that every person who had just entered the game was curious about what they saw in front of them. To start the beginner process, the first step was to check their own equipment, available tasks, and operate according to the game's common sense. Ko Wangchen knew that those were useless. If they were lucky, they would be born directly in the center of creation, reducing many adventures. However, if they were born in the center, they would face even more terrifying humans, monsters, and even the same kind of cannibalism. Born on the edge of the continent, it's almost like forgetting dust. Those who are lucky enough to be born in a low-level novice village, and even those with exceptional character can become imperial relatives and nobles. It's obvious that Forgetting Dust has been forced to endure hardship in his past life and this life as well. But now he is in a small town on the edge of Buried Bones City, not to mention the giant tree forest. He doesn't even have the strength to step out of the novice village. He was born in the same butcher family in his previous life. The fat woman in front of him is his hated but beloved aunt, while the robust butcher on the other side is what he called, "Father, dog egg, you damn kid, what are you still doing? How could I have such an unfilial son like you? Hurry up and bring the meat here to the city." The small town on the street is the birthplace of Forget Chen, which was the initial novice village. Watching the obese woman drive him, Forget Chen couldn't bear it. Although this woman was not good to him in her past life, he and the butcher's father saved his life with a butcher's knife when the cannibal attacked. He is still a familiar street with negative character, just like in his past life, he is an ordinary human without any characteristics. However, many people will regret not becoming a human after a few years, because they are the most promising race. Only the human race can have the most exposure to the existence of life potential among the strong players in the game. Do you accept Aunt Zhang's order to send fresh meat to the town? Task level. No difficulty. Reward money. 1 copper coin, experience. 50. The rewards of the system are related to the residence of the original creator, such as Aunt Zhang's stinginess, which forms a low and pitiful reward. Open your character panel and take a look. Character card. Forgetting Dust life state. Intact cultivation. 1 level, 1 cultivation skill. None main occupation. None associate occupation. None main skill. Regular boxing sub-skill. None character card introduction. Wang Gooden, a resident of the street town of Buried Bones City and a member of the Wang Butcher's family. Grass. Whenever I see the name of a bastard, I feel like it's the biggest shame of my life. What kind of mood did Aunt Zhang have when she first got her name? I gave a reluctant glance at Aunt Zhang and Butcher Wang. Although I am an orphan in reality and have never felt the love of my parents, I am often called around by Aunt Zhang in the game. Butcher Wang drinks and kills animals all day as if he never takes himself seriously, but Forget Chen still regards them as his family. Because soon after, the unpopular Wang Butcher and Zhang Auntie, who was calling him around, would use their lives to protect him, which was the biggest impact of entering the game. Do you have to let the old lady whip you to get out of here? Hurry up and send these fresh meats to town. Aunt Wang's high decibel roar came again, forgetting dust and shrinking her mouth. The good impression she had accumulated so hard quickly dissipated, but if possible, before the disaster strikes, he wants to try his best to keep the chubby old lady and the robust king alive. Not everyone in the game of birth will listen to the so-called parents. Some will leave home without permission to practice, while some elves will go to the city center to try their best to learn from their masters, while those who are clumsy will follow the game's entry into the city. Forgetting Dust knows that no matter what you do at this time, it is unnecessary. Whether you want to change professions or learn skills, it is futile at this time. Unless someone with bad luck finds a hidden task or a hidden profession to learn from, it will be useless until disaster strikes. However, even if the monster found a way out and arrived at the Buried Bones City before attacking the street town, there was still no way out of the Buried Bones town. Forget Chen knew 3 ways, one of which was to cross the Peak Mountain, which was almost impossible to accomplish. The Peak Mountain has an altitude of 50,000 meters, and not to mention its steep terrain and crisis along the way, it is something that players cannot accomplish at this stage. Secondly, being taken out by the older generation of players is not bad. Every era has stains, and there are still a large number of struggling old players left in the buried Bone City. There is always a group of well-planned adventurers who want to leave here at all times. At that time, in order to plan successfully, they would let a large number of new players join and become bait for monsters. In the past life, although they were close to death, Forgotten Dust relied on this method to get out. But he didn't plan to do that in this life. He had to choose a third option to join the kingdom's free army. Being too anxious would only make himself more miserable. He couldn't be in a hurry, he had to use all his experience and knowledge to strengthen himself and even prepare for the first half of the road to his dreams, because so far, he couldn't forget the arrival of that day. Every time I think about it, I will clench my fist tightly. The second method may have been successful in his past life, but it did not have a significant effect. However, in his past life, someone not only successfully entered and exited the Bone Burial Land using the third method, but also obtained equipment, skills, and money. In his past life, someone even obtained the 3 treasures of the Creator God in the Bone Burial Land, their divine powers and bloodstains. The divine bloodstains, known as the treasure of the Creator God, have a large number compared to the other 2 treasures, but it is even more difficult to obtain them. The current purpose of Forget Dust is to wait for monsters to attack the novice village and join the army of buried Bone City, gain the trust of the kingdom, and obtain a large amount of equipment coins. Only then can he find the specific location of the divine power bloodstains. The divine power and bloodstains are just his next plan to become stronger. The real thing is to rely on his own efforts to strengthen his body and consolidate the perfect foundation. At this moment, his mind is already starting to run at high speed and what he should do after entering the game. But now, he can only stay at the novice village with peace of mind, because all the plans require time to settle. Thinking about it, he has already entered the town. TSK, it's another group of newcomers joining. Looking at their hopeful faces, I can't imagine what they will be like in a few days or months. In the idle conversation, one can hear a lot about everything about this town, and even the bartender in the town's tavern will know everything after receiving benefits. But sometimes it's better not to know the truth because the cruelty is hard to accept. Waiter, this is fresh meat sent to your tavern. Forget Chen has a lot of work to do, and almost all the taverns in the town have some connection with Butcher Wang. This was not clear to Forget Chen until Butcher Wang died, only thinking that this old man also has mysterious moments. Oh, this is not Forgetting Dust. The boss's attitude was quite good, and he even gave him an extra copper coin as a reward when he saw his luck and hardship. Although it was pitiful, the money in the game could be exchanged for real currency, but many people who had money could not spend it. After finishing all the work with a smile, Forget Chen returned to his home to receive the rewards he deserved. However, the despicable chubby mother wouldn't make Forget Chen so easy, so she arranged for him to go to the well to fetch water. Unexpectedly, Forget Dust readily agreed, which made the chubby old lady mutter to herself, on weekdays, this dead kid would have a hard mouth to resist without being beaten. Has he learned how to behave after hitting his head? Butcher Wang took a deep glance at the back of Forget Dust, but didn't say a word. Getting water, chopping firewood, and giving meat are not easy tasks. Take 2 large buckets of water weighing over 100 pounds, and give meat to 10 taverns. The weight ranges from 500 to 200. Chopping firewood, just look at other born players. They can't even twist an axe. And Forget Chen had already been mentally prepared, although very tired, he still enjoyed it, and for Forget Chen, this was what he wanted. Only in this way can he thoroughly exercise his physical fitness. After entering the game for a few days, Forget Chen had completely integrated into the game world after his rebirth. Unlike in his previous life where he no longer thought about leaving here, Forget Chen was patiently waiting because he knew it was not urgent. Even if he used the second method to leave here, he would have to wait for a year. During this period, the players in the street towns have become more and more active, often seeing many beginners wandering around the periphery. However, whether it is teaming up or single brushing, there is inevitably a nightmare of despair. The reason why the bone-buried land is called a beginner's nightmare is because the monsters here are generally stronger than other birthplaces. As for the reason, no one knows so far. Although there are also unfair aspects to Genesis, every existence is reasonable, making it impossible for players to nitpick. Therefore, if there are complaints, they can only be swallowed. Many people have died again, and the life of the game is also very precious. If there is not enough soul crystals to resurrect, it will be disastrous. Forgotten Chen underestimated in a low voice. The death penalty of creation is very severe, with only 3 chances of resurrection. If it exceeds this number, a special item called Soul Crystal is needed, and the preciousness of soul crystals has reached a priceless level. In his past life, he had soul crystals, but unfortunately in reality, he died, so he had no chance to continue his adventure in the second half of the continent of creation. I don't want to waste my life on these meaningless things now. Even if I force myself to reach the city, there may not be any better development. This brief wait is for a brilliant future. Before having enough strength, even if that day really came, Forget Dust would still face failure. Thinking of the tragedy, he couldn't help but grip his iron fist, and the invisible pressure seemed to crush him, but it was this sense of oppression that was constantly making Forget Dust stronger. Chapter 6. Deputy Butcher. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As usual, waking up in the game was an unnecessary task for him. In reality, they were like prey imprisoned in a birdcage. Some people never left the quarantine zone in their lifetime and never knew how wonderful the outside world was. The street town on this day is much livelier than usual, with players constantly moving in. Moreover, this is the main passage from the street town to the city, so there are always tangible players passing by. Forgotten Dust was just staring at their backs from the side. Among these thousands of players, less than 1 in 10 were able to leave this place. Most of them were born here, just like him, and they were born in purgatory mode. It is worth mentioning that the gaming cabins of the nobility and the poor are different. Nobles may have been born into the royal family of a certain country, or even directly in the first half of the main city of the Dream Road. In the past life of Forgotten Dust, he and his companions went through numerous trials and hardships to barely reach the first half of the main city on the path of their dreams. It was there that they encountered the biggest blow in their lives. They encountered a powerful enemy that could not be defeated, and their adventure came to a tragic end. I started some rough training to try and make myself stronger. If I want to grow enough to affect my physical fitness in the game, I must go beyond the limits of the human body. During my days in the novice village, apart from the daily tasks of delivering meat, fetching water, and chopping firewood, the most forgetful thing was exercising my body. So, a strange scene appeared in the small town on the street. Just as countless players were rushing to break through the monsters on the outskirts of the town, a strange player ran around the town day and night, taking in hundreds of water fetching tasks back and forth every day. The buzzing of chopping firewood could be heard in the pitch-black night. Day after day, a month passed in a blink of an eye. Over the course of a month, the number of players in the street town not only did not decrease, but also increased over time. What's even more eerie is that more and more players stayed in the town. Did these guys finally notice? Forgotten Chen underestimated a sentence, but continued to bring home 100 pounds of firewood. In the street town, relying solely on personal strength and their current strength cannot break through the encirclement of monsters with cultivation levels above 2. They must unite. However, unity alone is not enough. Only by experiencing it firsthand can one understand the mysteries of Genesis. There is still 1 year left. Forget Chen was calculating the time of his departure. He had also stayed here for a full year in his previous life, but obviously did not have the current effect. Someone once found the 3 treasures of the Creator God in the buried Bone City, and later became famous in the first half of the Dream Road continent, known as the Supernova. At that time, in the main city of Dream Road, they were like gods, and the distance between the forgotten dust and the supernova players was 10 times. But in this world, I believe that I will never be worse than anything else. In this way, he seemed to forget his fatigue, and all that remained in his eyes was strength. Even Aunt Zhang, who had always been bossing her, felt unbearable because she had done more than ordinary players. So it lasted for a month. Countless nights of waving the chopstick knife in his hand, and forgetting how many times he repeatedly fetches water, delivers meat, and chops firewood these days, but when the system's prompt sound comes to his ear, all that remains in his heart is excitement and excitement. Your hard work has touched the heavens, greatly improved your physical skills, and increased your destructive power by 10. Destructive power. This is a potential attribute of the human body, and Forget Dust is well aware of the importance of destructive power. This is a power 10 times stronger than equipment and weapons. As long as the destructive power is strong enough, it can definitely produce unexpected effects. Compared to his figure a month ago, his muscle lines were noticeably more distinct, and the previously challenging tasks felt much easier. Therefore, he gave up the cart and carried hundreds of pounds of fresh meat daily to every tavern in the street town. As more and more firewood hung on his body, as the meat he gave increased from 100 pounds to 500 pounds, and as he walked through the crowd carrying 200 pounds of wooden barrels, he didn't need to pay attention to their strange gazes. He only needed to understand everything he had done, and his eyes were filled with unwavering determination for the future. Take a break. Even if you exceed the limits of the human body, your body will eventually need to rest. This is the first official sentence that Jingzhuang Wang said to Forget Chen, and in his impression, this silent butcher is a true Iron Man. Forget Chen smiled and didn't refuse. The robust king no longer spoke, but focused on the task at hand. This was the amount of work he had to complete for the day, and all the wild animals piled up like mountains had to be completed today. Only by calming down can we discover more, such as the forgotten dust at this moment. He is responsible for delivering hundreds of pounds of meat a day, which is already the limit, but the King of Health has to slaughter wild animals weighing no less than 10,000 pounds here. However, as the day goes by, I have never seen the King of Health feel any fatigue. Just as Forget Chen was pondering, the vigorous king had already taken action. This was a carnivorous cow wandering around the forest, with horns thicker than Forget Chen's arms and a brutal carnivorous beast with a cultivation level of 2.1. Not to mention its volume, it was 3 meters long and 4 meters high. If it weren't for its death, Forget Chen wouldn't dare to get too close. But it was such a guy who was easily thrown into the air by the strong king. As soon as the beef cow fell onto the nail board, the strong king moved. The knife in his hand, the indifferent person, and the sharp gaze emitted waves of coldness, almost in an instant. This behemoth in the eyes of Forget Dust was completely decomposed before his eyes. The backyard of Butcher Wang's house remained silent for a long time, except for the flickering silver light and the sound of butcher knives breaking through the air. 1 second. 5 times, no, not 5 times, 10 times, no, more than that, I can't see clearly. I can't see clearly. The movements in his hands, the exaggerated expression of stuffing an egg into his mouth. At this moment, I can't calm my heart and feel the shock. He really wants to shout loudly. You're so worried, Brother Wei Mao never knew. Like most players in their past lives, Forget Chen was racking his brains to find a way to leave here. How could he have such a chance to see the scene before him? This is the first time he has seen a scene of a muscular king slaughtering. It's like a complete shock. How many times in a second does the sword strike? Forget Chen can't imagine it anymore. However, what touches him even more is that compared to waving his chopstick knife hundreds of times a day, the mighty king may have already merged with the sword for 5 years. 10 years. I'm afraid. King Jingzhuang has been wielding his butcher's knife all his life, which is the ultimate ability to do one thing wholeheartedly. Forgotten by the sword technique of the mighty king, he couldn't help but recall a rumor about a butcher in his past life. It was rumored that a player had obtained the true butcher's manual and ultimately understood the ultimate skill of a butcher. The slaughterhouse, because of this skill, he became famous in one battle and became one of the supernovae in the first half of the Dream Road. Thinking of this, Forget Chen sat cross-legged without hesitation and said, "Father Wang, please teach me the skills of a butcher." For Forget Chen, who had a deep sense of pride in his bones, even old Wang couldn't kneel down. He just crossed his legs and his eyes were full of determination. Jingzhuang Wang turned his head and glanced at him, appearing somewhat bewildered and unmoved. Forget Chen didn't speak, just silently staring at Jingzhuang Wang. After a long time, when the vigorous king finished his task, he turned back and said, "You also saw that my work just now was not easy, and even our efforts were 10 times that of ordinary people. Moreover, what I saw in your eyes was not the fanaticism towards prey, but the coldness of killing. Picking up a knife, whether it's a butcher or a demon, I'm only there to protect the people I cherish." This sentence brought a huge shock to Butcher Wang, as he carefully gazed at his unfamiliar and familiar son before him for the first time. "Sure, I will teach you all the skills of my life, but if you can't bear the pain before, then don't come back to see me." Jingzhuang Wang didn't hesitate to teach him everything he had learned in his life just because of his words. Butcher Wang feels your unyielding will and is willing to teach you the skills of a butcher. Would you be willing to transfer to a vice-professional butcher? Once transferred, it cannot be modified. Without hesitation, I chose to switch jobs. Although I was prepared, I still couldn't hide my excitement at this moment. It should be noted that the most difficult thing in the game of Genesis is not the main profession, but the deputy profession, because the realism of Genesis is 100%. That is to say, there are not as many complex things as traditional games, such as teleportation arrays, and the things sold in the Genesis store have expensive prices, even blood medicine and blue medicine do not exist. The harsh conditions have made many people resentful of Genesis, but these conditions have led to astonishing growth for many players, even affecting their reality. A minor profession can almost determine one's future life. If one is lucky enough to switch to becoming a pharmacist chef, it is a national treasure in the world. Such people will be recruited by large guilds, enterprises, and even nobles. And the deputy position of the butcher at this moment is simply the most powerful deputy position for Forget Chen. The butcher is not only a deputy position, but also a profession that kills people. However, once a secondary profession is transferred, it cannot be changed, which is even more demanding than the main profession. Character cards, Forgetting Dust, Son of a Dog, Associate Occupation. Butcher Junior Skills for Deputy Positions. Slaughter, Disintegration Intermediate Skills for Deputy Positions. Meat Cutting, Bone Removal, Dissection. Just like the names of these skills, they not only have the power to be used as butchers, but they are even more terrifying when killing. However, currently, Forget Dust can only learn basic skills, intermediate skills are gloomy, advanced skills are directly questioned, and ultimate skills have not yet been released. But the thought of having the opportunity to comprehend the ultimate skill of a butcher in a slaughterhouse excites him immensely. No matter how fierce a man is, once you enter the slaughterhouse, it is meat on an iron plate. Chapter 7. Experience Tasks. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The new book has been revised, please review the first 4 chapters. Give it a try. The words of King Jingzhuang became gentle, which made Forget Chen a bit uncomfortable. Butcher Wang took Forget Chen to the backyard breeding ground at home. These were all little wild boars, peanut deer, and little snow sheep with a body size of no more than 1 meter. At the moment he picked up the butcher's knife, Forget Chen felt like he was the executioner. Dismantling and slaughtering are currently the 2 butcher skills that can be used by Forget Chen. When fresh life is presented to him and he uses a butcher's knife to gesture on the bodies of these animals, Forget Chen is fully immersed in the butcher's work. This is his first time using slaughter, and the first step is to slaughter, so that these gentle creatures do not die in pain. However, obviously, these fresh lives will not be slaughtered by him. The first disintegration failed, and the little wild boar died in pain. Forget the dust and even feel the sadness in its eyes. Failed, the knife in my hand dripping with the blood of life. I felt a little disappointed in my heart, but more importantly, it was the momentum. I must remain calm, otherwise I will fail again. Jingzhuang Wang was just watching and didn't speak, perhaps the time had not come yet. Taking a deep breath, calming my previously chaotic emotions, I stared intently at the snow-white Mianyang. Time seemed to stop at this moment, and neither the vigorous king nor the forgotten dust moved. No one spoke, only the low moans and mournful cries of the snow sheep. In the quiet scene, just as the snow sheep suddenly darted around, forgotten dust's expression trembled, and the butcher's knife launched an attack with a flash of cold light. The skill of slaughtering was activated. A hint of surprise flashed in the eyes of the Jingzhuang king. By the time he calmed down, Forget Dust had already withdrawn his knife, as if he had never moved. In the silent breeding ground, the snow sheep fell to the ground with a mournful roar, and after 2 seconds, the blood dyed its snow-white hair red. As soon as Forget Chen showed a happy expression, Jingzhuang Wang said coldly, "This is just the simplest first step. The next step is disintegration." Indeed, this is the most basic skill for a butcher, and there is nothing to be proud of. The subsequent disintegration is crucial, as improper operation can affect the overall deliciousness of the meat. Calm down, calm down. The butcher's skill had already flashed through Forget Chen's mind, and the butcher's knife passed by. This was the first stage, bleeding, allowing the animals to die without any pain. If someone like Jingzhuang Wang were to do it, they would probably not feel it even after the bleeding and dissection. Forgetful Dust did extremely meticulously, and even after the bloodletting was completed, the animal still did not react. He succeeded in the first step, but with all his heart and soul, he did not notice the light in Wang Butcher's eyes. Step 2, Dismantle. Using the butcher's knife, a silver light flashed through the abdomen of the little wild boar. Before the wound appeared, he used the butcher's knife again. The dazzling butcher's knife seemed to dance wildly on the wild boar's body, but only Butcher Wang's eyes were shining brightly. In less than 30 seconds, Forgotten Dust withdrew the knife. At this moment, he was already sweating profusely and his face was full of solemnity. Failed. The disintegration of the snow sheep failed. Although the process was smooth, the most crucial aspect was the failure due to small deviations. Although unwilling, it did indeed fail. This kid has just comprehended the skills of a butcher, and can actually achieve such a level. Unlike Ju from Forget Chen, this short 30-second time brought a lifelong shock to the strong king. If one cannot understand the body structure of an animal, it is impossible to dissect it. If one cannot even dissect it, it is impossible to dissect it perfectly. In this world, a good chef cannot use ingredients perfectly, and the taste of the ingredients will also be greatly reduced. A good butcher cannot use ingredients perfectly without good craftsmanship, just like how to preserve these meat in the most perfect state depends on the butcher's ability, and how to make delicious food depends on the chef's cooking skills. Seeing Forget Chen's emotions is not high, and the birth of a strong king awakens him. The words of King Jingzhuang gave Forgotten Chen some insight. Pick up the knife, you're the butcher. Whether it's humans or animals on this nail board, how you do it depends on you. The meaning of King Jingzhuang is for Forget Chen to grasp on his own. He must have a definite plan in his mind on what to do. Forget Chen adjusts his breathing again. He understands that this kind of thing cannot be done too quickly, but his time is limited. He must make effective use of this year and not waste any second. The knife was held steadily in his hand, and Forget Chen placed it on the leg of Snow Sheep. This was not a family slaughter, but the honor of being a butcher. In the butcher's eyes, there were no flaws allowed. Although Forget Chen did not have the courage of a butcher, he did not allow himself to be careless in his actions. The process of cutting is very simple. The hands start and fall, and the silver light flashes along with the separation of the thighs. The incision is neat without any flaws, and the leg meat is cut completely, successfully disassembled. Forgotten Dust wiped the sweat off his forehead. He had never been so engrossed before, putting all his energy and effort into slaughtering. This simple skill was repeated countless times by him, and after slaughtering, it disintegrated countless times after almost all the ingredients in the backyard farm were slaughtered by the inexperienced techniques. He collapsed to the ground in the moment he relaxed. But Jingzhuang Wang was far more strict than Forget Chen had imagined. He looked at the disintegrating ingredients on the ground and said, "Are you tired? You're tired. Comfort is for the dead. With your current skills, you can't even afford to eat beef. A qualified butcher not only needs superb skills, but also a strong physique. Now, take these meat to the tavern in town." Forgotten Chen remained silent, dragging his tired body with heavy steps to resist these flesh on his body. He knew he didn't have extra time to complain, and the opportunity to break through his physical limits was to grow in this adversity. 10 pounds, 50 pounds, 100 pounds, 200 pounds, carrying 200 pounds on his shoulders is already his limit, but it's not enough, far from enough. Not enough, not enough, I want to become stronger, become stronger. Let Butcher Wang continue to add weight to himself. When 300 pounds weighed down and he couldn't stand up, Forget Chen exposed his veins and was very tired, like a whole mountain pressing on him. Ah 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 ah. The roaring person, unwilling, was carrying 300 pounds of meat already the limit. No, as long as you become stronger, these are just a piece of cake. As soon as Forget Chen's body straightened out from the roar, the expression of the strong king couldn't help but be moved. He saw the indomitable and stubborn will in this young man. After sending back these meats, tonight I will personally teach you what I have learned throughout my life. With this sentence, Jingzhuang Wang once again devoted himself to his work. Late at night. The so-called butcher, in the eyes of most people, is a pig slayer, but no matter how people perceive it, being oneself is the most important thing. I, Wang Tianlong, have devoted my whole life to the kingdom, and you are the only child to this day. But I know that your heart is not in this kingdom. You showed me your will today, and now I will teach you what I have learned throughout my life. In the backyard of Wang Butcher's house, Forgotten Dust and Strong Wang's 4 eyes met, and the resounding words made Forgotten Dust's blood burn. He couldn't help but ask, "Father Wang, do you know the slaughterhouse? How did you know about the slaughterhouse?" Old Wang's rhetorical question made Forget Chen more determined in his own thoughts. Although he didn't have much contact in the past few days, Forget Chen knew that Old Wang had the pride of a butcher in his bones. The ability of a slaughterhouse is not something you can learn now. Seeing the longing in Forget Chen's eyes, the cold words of Jingzhuang Wang extinguished his enthusiasm. He was too eager to eat hot tofu, and Forget Chen appeared too eager. You should know about the stone forest in the street town, right? Now, Forget Chen is still too weak. It will take a lot of time to master what he has learned throughout his life, so Old Wang came up with a way to hone his skills. I know. Okay, take this knife and go to the stone forest to bring back 100 stone forests. Jingzhuang Wang gave a regular firewood knife to Forget Chen and asked him to bring back 100 stone forests. Ding dong, do you accept Wang Butcher's training task to retrieve 100 stone forests? Task difficulty. Unpredictable. When she heard about a task, Forget Chen was still very excited. This was the first time Old Wang had given him a task, which he had never done in his previous life. However, the content of the task made Forget Chen, who had been a person for 2 generations, dumbfounded. Just kidding, the stone forest, just like its name suggests, is a forest formed entirely of stones. Although it has abundant mineral resources, no one in the street towns can mine it. The reason why the treasures on the ground are ignored is because the stone forest cannot be mined. Although Forget Dust still has the power of life potential to utilize, it's not the time yet. The reason why he works so hard to exercise his body is to be able to use this power in games. Now, old Wang, this bastard, has even brought back 100 stone forests. Why, are you scared? Or are you saying you want to give up here? The provocative tone seemed to give Forget Chen a difficult problem. After a moment of thought, Forget Chen suddenly smiled and said, "Are you afraid? Old man, wait, 100 stone forests." After finishing speaking, he turned around and left. Jingzhuang Wang pondered for a moment, staring at his back, and suddenly exclaimed in astonishment, "If you finish, I can consider teaching you the slaughterhouse." The pace of Forgotten Dust's progress was stuck in mid-air, and the words of the King of Vigorous undoubtedly made his blood and cells boil endlessly. Although the task of mining the stone forest was difficult, perhaps it was an opportune moment for Forgotten Dust. However, what shocked Forget Chen was that the robust king who quickly hiccuped in his previous life was so worried. He, as a son, had no idea at all. However, no matter what, such a divine skill in the slaughterhouse is inevitable. The place where Forget Dust is about to go is a place that has been neglected by the street town for 100 years. Even though it contains abundant mineral resources, it has become a desolate place due to the difficulty of cultivating the stone forest. The reason why Forget Chen quickly regained his confidence is because he felt that this was an opportunity, a place where he could try the power he brought back after rebirth, the potential of life. Chapter 8. Potential Mutations. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Stone Forest. The street town has been a place where no one has been interested for 100 years. There are neither ferocious beasts nor cannibals that the Buried Bone Township fears. Moreover, the natural minerals contained in the stone forest can even provide the mineral resources of Buried Bone City for hundreds of years. But it is such a place that no one has ever paid attention to. However, on this day, a young man came to visit the stone forest late at night, completely breaking the tranquility of the forest. He was Forgotten Dust. In his past life, Forgotten Dust knew about the existence of the stone forest because a tragedy had happened here. However, he had never come here, only heard that the forest here was indestructible, and its hardness was 100 times that of the diamond in the real world. Human resources cannot be exploited. After flipping over a heavy mountain, Forgotten Dust arrived almost unobstructed at the stone forest. After all, it was a sparsely populated place and there were not even half a player on the way. Occasionally encountering one or two monsters was enough to avoid them and not fight. After all, the game still relies on cultivation and attributes. After a long period of mission experience, he has only completed 1 level of cultivation and 3 levels of cultivation. He is pitifully weak, and his physical strength is not as strong as in the real world. He cannot even use the simplest life potential impact. So, the experience of Shijilin may be an opportunity to break through the limits of the body. The endless stone forest, with silver-white objects and trees almost identical in structure, some even have old trees coiled up to form towering trees, blocking the scorching sun in the sky. The system indicates that the temperature here is 60 degrees Celsius, which is a sunny season that the real world can hardly feel. The atmosphere of the real world has long been destroyed, and in isolation zones, apart from radiative haze and red skies, the sky and scorching sun are almost an unattractive sight. Forgetful Dust closed his eyes, opened his arms to enjoy the warmth of the sunshine, but he did not forget the purpose of coming here. Is this the stone forest? The vast and boundless land is silver-white to the eye, and there is no sound around. What's even more magical is that the leaves on the stone forest are also silver-white, but they have a green texture. When the wind blows, they sway with the wind, and when you reach out and touch them, you can feel the indestructible hardness of these leaves. Let's give it a try first. The firewood knife in my hand has nothing special about it. The blade appears dull and dull, but after all, it is an ordinary firewood knife. Taking a deep breath, the first thing to try is whether you can have the power to cut off the stone tree. With the firewood knife in your hand, Forget Dust suddenly exerted force. At the moment when the firewood knife collided with the stone tree, a large amount of flames were generated due to friction. The hard blow only paid off, and Forget Dust retreated 2 meters and his tiger mouth cracked. Shaking his numb arm, his eyes were filled with shock, and the hardness of the stone forest exceeded that of Forget Dust's imagination. Just in this moment of contact, I frowned tightly. If there were no accidents, almost all the stone forests here have the same indestructible hardness. Not to mention 100, I'm afraid none of them have been completed. Putting down the knife in his hand, he extended his palm and put it into the trunk of the tree. Forgetful Dust slowly closed his eyes, and a faint silver luster appeared all over his body. This was a prelude to the release of life potential, but it was only a prelude. This move condensed life just to feel or detect other life signs. The silver of the stone tree and the white of the Forgotten Dust complement each other, and at first glance, it seems as if they have merged for a long time. Forgotten Dust slowly opens his eyes, and at this moment, his eyes have condensed silver, which is the condensation of life's potential. These trees actually have life, they are repelling me, not just against me, but against everyone who steps into this land. Due to the potential of life, Forgotten Dust could feel the repulsion of the stone forest towards him, with a terrifying aura that could not tolerate others attempting to scare him away. This feeling is like the rejection of ingredients and prey from outsiders. As old Wang said, a good butcher understands the prey, and a good chef understands the ingredients. If you want to cut you off, it depends on whether I can become a qualified woodcutter. Forgotten Dust stared at the stone forest in front of him, not feeling disheartened, but becoming excited because of them. Looking at this silver-white Shunlin, it seems as if one sees a road about to become stronger. In this way, Forget Dust began his most arduous cultivation in the stone forest since entering the game. In the absence of anyone to accompany him, he had to endure the unbearable loneliness of ordinary people. Here, he had to complete 100 stone forest trees to end. How much time does it take? He doesn't know. Bang, bang. The blade of the firewood knife is very blunt, and Forget Dust suspects that it has never been opened, because the sharpness of this thing is only 100 the butcher's wood knife sharpness. 100, inherited by the Wang family for generations, it has long become a dull sword, a thing that has a sharpness of 100 and can't even kill snow sheep, but Forget Dust didn't complain. The butcher Wang wouldn't harm himself, and if he did, he wouldn't sacrifice his life to protect himself in his past life. So, there must be a reason to do so, just like the game itself. The tasks in Stone Forest are very unreasonable, because even the strong cannot do things that Forget Dust can do. Indeed, Genesis is not a fair game, but all unfair things have their own reasons to exist. What Forget Dust can do now is to complete the task. He still has 1 year left. From this day on, the silent stone forest began to produce the sound of chopping, appearing particularly loud in the depths of the stone forest. The rhythmic collision sound lasted for an unknown amount of time, and eventually, from morning to night, and from evening to morning, the time for Forget Dust to rest gradually decreased. In this way, after a whole month of continuous use, Forget Dust finally threw away the firewood knife in his hand and stood expressionlessly on the ground, his eyes filled with anxiety and unease. Staring at the stone tree that he had been cutting for a month, he showed deep concern. For a whole month, he had almost no time to rest, but the result was disappointing. The stone tree not only had no signs of breakage, but also no scratches. For such a month, even an Iron Man cannot bear it. This is not only a physical exercise, but also a mental blow. If persistence fails, it will undermine one's expectations and confidence. The current forgetfulness is in such a decadent state. Lying on the ground panting heavily, looking at the silver-white sky with a bewildered expression, he didn't even have a single one for a month. Even if he succeeded, the distance from 100 was so far, and sometimes he even thought about giving up. After all, his expectations for the slaughterhouse were not as strong as those of divine powers and bloodstains. But the other person in his heart tells him to persist. Once you give up, your beliefs have been completely overturned. But if you don't give up, he doesn't have that much time to stay here. If he breaks the original traces of history, can he still meet his friends and loved ones? So the time when Forget Chen left here is 1 year later. Just as he was lost, a leaf in the sky drifted away, like a solitary boat in the ocean drifting in the wind, gradually falling onto his cheek and blocking his view. Picking up the silver leaf that covered his eyes, he gazed at it. A ray of sunlight burst through and he could see the meridians of the leaves clearly. Without much thought, he threw it aside. However, at this moment, a gust of wind blew by and the silver leaves on the stone tree kept drifting away. Upon seeing this scene, Forget Chen suddenly flipped over and walked back and forth under the tree trunk, thinking about how he suddenly twisted his firewood knife and looked at the branches. The motionless branches did not even drop a leaf, which was why Forget Chen felt shocked. Because the wind blew the leaves off. This Nima is not scientific. The gentle wind was able to blow down the indestructible leaves that could not even be chopped off with a firewood knife. When it was blown down, it was actually blown down. This made the forgotten dust, who had not even received a single strand of hair for a month, feel a sad egg. As a result, this second-rate guy actually climbed up a big tree and blew on the leaves with all his might. He kept blowing on and on for a whole day, and only then did he give up when his mouth kept twitching. But even so, not a single leaf has fallen off. What is going on with Nima? The same gust of wind blew off a few leaves, and this time, Forget Dust subconsciously used his life potential. He wanted to see clearly how these winds managed to do it. This strong asterisk resonates with the potential of life itself. Suddenly, he only felt a loud roar from his forehead. His life potential suddenly overflowed, and then gathered in his eyes. 5 words suddenly echoed in my mind. Life potential, condensation. The potential for mutation allowed him to clearly see the moment when the wind swept over the leaves, and that feeling was like caressing, good enough, like parents caressing their children. Even Forget Chen himself never expected that this strong asterisk would make him realize the condensation of life's potential. This should be the 4 basics: gathering to advance, gazing. Of course, this is not the most exciting. The most exciting thing is that he seemed to have understood something in that moment. Twisting his firewood knife again, Forgotten Dust excitedly stood in front of the stone tree, which had been chopping for almost a month without any results. He took a deep breath, and when his arm shook, a phantom appeared. Even he himself had not noticed that the more than tens of thousands of swings in this month had greatly changed his physical fitness. Can the Forgotten Dust, who comprehends the power of new life potential, succeed this time? At the moment when the firewood knife was twisted, the originally dull knife emitted a cold light under the sunlight. As the hand started and the knife fell, the firewood knife collided with the silver tree, and the flames burst out instantly, but there was no previous collision sound. When the firewood knife met the stone tree, a dull buzzing sound came from it. Dong! The seemingly fierce sword contained a gentle blade wind, and the stone tree remained motionless. However, after a moment, a surprised expression appeared on the face of the Forgotten Dust. Although it was subtle, the firewood knife successfully left visible scratches on the stone tree. Success! The eyes of Forget Chen, which were engulfed in white flames, were filled with expectations for success. I have been revising new books and outlines in the past 2 days, and discussing free matters with the website, so I was unable to update them in a timely manner. I apologize for the inconvenience. Today, I will start pushing the list, and it will be updated at 6:12 p.m. tonight. Additional updates will be notified separately.